Folks, something I think we need to have a conversation about is there is a really, I don't know, tug of war going on at the highest levels of the US economy. And simply said, we have an executive branch, Congress doing one thing, and we have Jerome Powell, the Fed president, doing something else. And frankly, they are not helping each other. In fact, I would argue they are polar opposites. So we're going to talk to Taylor from Life Goal Investments, understand what's going on because this could get messy. What say you, Taylor?
It's so interesting because you've absolutely hit the nail on the head. There is a epic battle playing out between Joe Biden and the folks in Washington who want to avoid recession and press us through 2024 election season without us hitting a recession. That's their
Mhm.
goal on the one side, and we'll
Yep.
talk about how you do that. And on the other side, you have Jerome Powell, whose mandate is predominantly right now control inflation.
Right.
And those things are pushing and pulling against each other, and they are not in agreement.
Yeah, I forget who said this. It might have been Bill Ackman at Seeking Alpha, but basically he's pointing out that the consumer consumption is down, but what's filling the void is government spending. And government spending in a big way, right? We're talking trillions of dollars from the CHIP Act, trillions of dollars from the Inflation Reduction Act, which I still think is a horrible name. I don't know who names these things, but it's it's wild to think about that government spending just money printer on burr is filling the consumer's void, and the consumer is like 65% of the economy. That's a lot of money going out of Washington, D.C.
No doubt. And so you look at it and say, okay, Inflation Reduction Act, what does that mean? That means we spill stimulus into the economy.
Yeah,
Like that's an
exactly.
absolute
Yeah, that worked last
oxymoron.
time. That worked last time.
But what's interesting is I read a great article the other day, and what I didn't realize is that between the CHIPS Act and the Inflation Reduction Act, there is still two
Yeah.
trillion dollars of stimulus left in the coffers to spill more money into the market, which is just crazy to say, like, listen, we see what all of this executive branch and Washington, D.C. spending has done to inflation. It's perpetuated it, is what it's done. And now
Yeah.
we're going to go ahead and spill more money into the market. And then you expect on the other side of this battle, Jerome Powell to sit there and say, okay, what are we going to do about this? What do we anticipate this spending to do to inflation? We expect it to ignite inflation. And what do I have to do on the other side? I either have to raise rates or keep them higher for a longer period of time than what I would like to do. And who suffers based on this stuff? Well, I don't know. How about first time home buyers that don't own a home yet?
Yeah. Anybody trying to reach out and buy leverage, anybody looking to leverage new debt
Correct.
is hurting. Buy a home, buy a car, start a business, any
Correct.
of those
Build a
things,
new
right?
factory, whatever it is, bring on new employees, anything that has to use debt in order to
New
get
debt,
there.
new debt,
New
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 debt.
debt, correct, new debt, exactly. And then you look at banks on the other side and you say banks are telling us in their sluice report, which is a report
Yeah.
that shows what banks are doing, that we are going to continue to tighten lending standards.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
Yeah, I don't know if you probably didn't hear this, but I'll share it again with you in the audience. I had a commercial bank reach out to me. I have commercial loans on my apartment buildings,
Yep.
and he reached out to me and he said, basically, we want to offer you a below market interest rate on an existing property or your next purchase. We want to do more business with you. All right, I'm listening. I said, what? Basically, I said, what's the catch? And he's like, you have to deposit six figures with us.
Interesting. They're just trying to entice depositing.
Right, entice depositing from seasoned and well balance sheet investors. They're trying to
Correct.
attract capital, and I'm talking below market interest rate of like a point and a quarter.
I was going to say, how big was the spread? A point and a quarter.
Yeah, a point and a quarter, right?
So depending on what you could potentially make sense of that, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, right. If I was going into a deal and I can get a better than market rate, I can theoretically buy something more expensive than someone else because my debt structure is different. I mean, in theory,
Right, you can undercut the market from a rate perspective, therefore you can afford more, and yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. So again, this is just one guy's example from one banker who I do have a decade relationship with. So maybe it's unique. I don't think it is, but they are definitely picking winners and losers. And again, I think they're doing the classic give to get, right? They're talking about doing a loan of, I don't know, $1 million, $1.5 million, and they want six figures, right? So I mean, you can do the math. So it's
What
kind
does
of
that
interesting
also say? That says to you two things, in my opinion. That says obviously this banker trusts your ability to
to perform.
uh, understand what to buy and buy the right things,
Yep.
be a good operator. But it also says, boy, these banks are strapped for cash.
That was my biggest takeaway is like, you're right. If you're calling me now, again, decade relationship, I'm probably in the top 50 clients, probably, but I'm not in the top 5. So if
Right.
you're working all the way down that list to get to me to have this phone call, yeah, you might need some cash. That was my takeaway from that.
Interesting. And so like circling back to the conversation of just because we're on the banking theme
Yeah.
here, circling back to the conversation of the push and pull about what's happening in Washington, again, still continuing to spill stimulus, spurring on inflation. And on the other side, the Fed sits here and says, okay, we're going to have to keep rates high, if not go higher. The cracks that have formed in the regional banking world, they're not going to mend themselves with higher
No,
for longer rates.
no,
And,
they
and
get
everyone
worse.
says Powell doesn't give a damn about institutions that are small and regional banks, and it's like his hand is forced. He can
Yeah.
he takes so much shit that like I give him a reprieve on a lot of things. So I think he's done a better job than what people give him credit for. Not a perfect job. Going
No,
back to the original, he started raising rates too late, and that is his biggest mistake. But at the
agreed.
end of the day, he's done what he's had to do. He has to take interest rates higher to combat what's happening on the other side, which is that injection of stimulus that is seemingly not stopping.
No, in my mind, kind of the image I get is Powell and Biden in the ring, and Biden has selected an alternative boxer called, Mike Tyson, right? And oh, by the way, you've tied one arm behind Powell's back. So I don't like his chances,
Right. Right.
right? Again,
Right.
$2 trillion in stimulus that, oh, by the way, is coming. One of the things that's very interesting about the CHIPS Act and the Inflation Reduction Act is this didn't sit in committees for a decade and never get spent. It is hitting the streets right now
Yep.
and won't stop.
Yep.
Powell's got to be looking at that going, all right, well, I hit the consumer, right? The consumer's clearly slowing, but damn, these guys in Washington, D.C. are just driving down the street with the back of the truck open and money's flying out.
It's such a good point, and I'm not blaming Biden for this because he's searching
No,
for votes just as Trump is searching for votes for what I'm about to say here. But think about it. He's also pressing up inflation, joining picket lines with
I saw
UAW
that.
workers in Detroit, right? And Trump is right there next to him, shouting out what he wants as well, and they're looking for wages for the laborers to be
Mhm.
increased. That just creates more headache for Jerome Powell in monetary policy on the other side if they are to get what their desires are.
Yeah, and this is why Biden, I think, is going to continue to talk tough, continue to talk higher for longer, and why I think we're done raising rates. And I still believe it's his hope that he does something no Fed president has done ever, and that is hold rates for 18 months, at least
Yeah.
18 months.
And it's not so we're getting union spiral ups in other places too. So the
Yeah.
workers in Vegas right now,
Yep,
the
75,000 folks or 90,000. We got Kaiser Wednesday and the
yep.
and the hits just keep coming. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly right. So this wage pressure is going to continue, and again, I'm not saying it's not needed because wages of laborers, I'll just group them together as laborers, have been not sufficient for a
No,
long period of
40
time now.
years. 40
Yeah,
years.
and so, but at the end of the day, when we look at the underlying driver of inflation, I've said this on the show multiple times. If you want to point to one thing, it's wages. If wages are going to continue to go higher, inflation's going to follow. We spend. That's what Americans do.
Yeah, no, and again, what I think we're gonna have is the bottom half of the wage earners are gonna get a disproportionate amount, right? This isn't about white collar and engineers and,
Correct.
bankers, they're gonna probably take it on the chin, a little bit, but, the bottom half is gonna get theirs. I don't know if you saw it, but in California, Gavin Newsom signed a law that fast food workers are gonna make $20 an hour, and our current minimum wage, I think, is 15.50.
Right.
So that's
That's a 33% increase, somewhere in that ballpark. 30%
yeah.
increase. Yeah,
That's not inflationary, right? It's
correct.
gotta be paid for somewhere. So again, I just think Powell if Powell's gonna have to keep rates the same all year, we're gonna have to normalize at 6.5% mortgage rates or something like that. And I
It,
think we go sideways for years.
And this spirals back into a bigger overarching issue in this country, which is the debt that we're under.
Oh
One,
God, 33 trillion or whatever.
if we
Jesus.
continue to spend from a fiscal standpoint, obviously that just adds directly to the number. But then on the other side, if we continue to have to retain higher rates for a longer period of time, the interest payment that we pay bondholders gets more significant as well. So we're hitting ourselves from both sides and just seeing this budget go up further and further.
Yeah. Yeah, I got to tell you, something that Trump said that we should have absolutely done is issued a bunch of 100-year bonds back when
Oh, when
rates were.
rates were at zero, essentially,
Yeah.
100% correct.
Yeah, that was a genius call, and frankly could have saved our kids from, some epic debt battles, but alas, that opportunity was missed. So yeah, I think Biden and Powell are fighting it out. I think unfortunately Powell is you're right. I think he's fighting an election cycle, right? Biden
No,
is
no doubt about it. Yeah, I mean, we're going to spill all this stimulus in the market because who's in office right now? And I'm not saying it wouldn't be the same if it was a
oh,
Republican.
it
What
would
their
absolutely
job
be the
is
same. It would be the same.
push out recession as long as we can through this reelection cycle. Because generally, and I'm not saying this is going to be the case, but when people come into election cycles with a good economy, they get reelected. Now, I'm not
It's
saying we
the
can't buck
economy.
that trend,
Yeah, yeah.
but they get replaced when they come in with a bad economy. I'll tell you that.
It's the economy, stupid. I forget who said that, but yeah, it's always the economy. So
Exactly.
it's gonna be wild to watch. Powell has a really, 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 really tough job on his hands. It's certainly a job I would never want. But where can people find you? Because you put this out on Instagram, and I thought it was very well done.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Yeah, find us at Life Goal Investments on Instagram.
Awesome,
I
man.
appreciate you, Michael.
Stay tuned for epic battle number 3. It's Jamie Dimon and Bill Ackman. There's a little
Uh-oh.
tease for you.